Hi everyone, this is Mindy Egan and welcome back to the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. Today I have a very simple card to share with you today, and what we will be doing is creating our own background using only sentiments. This is really fun to do when you have a stamp set like this that has so many different sentiments and fonts. It makes a great background. The stamp set I'm using is called Straight from the Heart. This is what it looks like. Great variety on here, so I really don't need to add much else to the front of the card for a sentiment, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. I'm starting with a piece of white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I apologize, you're going to see my head popping in a lot because I really needed to make sure that everything was straight. So I have some crazy hair going on there, sorry about that. But all I'm doing is taking these sentiments and lining them up on the front of the card, changing the orientation. Some are sideways, some are even kind of upside down or on their side. My main thing doing this was I didn't want whatever sentiment was next to each other, I didn't want them in the same direction. So whether that's turning it sideways or making it face a different direction. And I also didn't want some lined up straight down the front of the card. I wanted them kind of off center a little bit from each other just to really make it look like a real background. Now, because this is a brand new stamp, it has a lot of thick areas to it. I need to condition the stamp set, which I did by just rubbing my hand over it. Then I'm going to ink this up really well with the My Favorite Things Extreme Black ink. Now, I knew with all of these thick sentiments, I was not going to get a great impression the first time. I think the only way I would have achieved that is if my ink pad was brand new out of the package. So I was not surprised when I had to stamp this 3 times. Actually, I only show you 2 times on camera, but I actually stamped it 3 times, and it is such a beautiful, crisp black. I had some open areas that I already had planned on adding some more sentiments to. So I just grabbed a couple that I thought would work well in those areas and turned them. You can even see one of them is upside down. I just really wanted to have coverage there so that it filled in my card nicely. Then I could ink those up again and stamp that down. And this time I only needed to stamp twice because I already had them conditioned. The last piece that I'm going to add to the front of this card front is using the Piece of My Heart die. And what I did is I die cut it first from white cardstock to create kind of a template. And then I just took a little bit of adhesive, added it to the back of that, and placed it on top of another piece of white cardstock. So this is kind of my die cut inlay. You could also trace the heart to use that as your template, but I found this to be really helpful because then all of my pieces lined up perfectly, and I'm just using a tape runner to attach all of those. Now, once I have all of those in place, I'm just going to carefully remove that template, and then I'm going to trim this out with my scissors. Now, off screen, I did go ahead and trim my panel down to, I think, 4 by 5 1/4, might be 3 3/4 by 5, but I trimmed my panel down. And then I'm taking foam tape and I'm layering the back of that panel with my foam tape just to add dimension. I have a side folding card base placed in my MISTI tucked into the corner. And then once I finish adding that foam tape behind my panel and removing the backing, I can line this up on the front of my card. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I think I hover over my cards for like a good 10 seconds before I actually commit and push down. But this really helps me making sure I have even margins going around that panel. Then I also lined the back of that heart with foam tape as well and placed that on the center of my card. So very, very simple card, minimal supplies. I don't know if you would call this clean and simple because it looks kind of busy, but very simple and really fun to create. So as you can see, I did not add any other sentiments to this because I didn't feel I needed to. I just added a few gems off to the side of the heart. So hopefully you have gotten some inspiration out of this by looking at your sentiment stamp sets, maybe combining a few of them to create a really fun background like this. Thanks so much for joining me, and see you again soon.